Good evening, and welcome to the school committee meeting for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome. I just need to let you know that this meeting is being recorded on for cable television and broadcast over local cable. Okay, so our first item on the agenda are the minutes from our regular meeting on October 19th. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the October 19th regular meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, excellent. They pass. Our next item is the extended field studies trip to Spain and Italy. You just have to press the button.
Okay. I'm Lisa Giacalone, and this is Jennifer Gogan. I teach Spanish and Italian for those of you who aren't familiar with me, and Jen teaches history. I'm proposing for April vacation a trip to Spain and Italy, and I don't know if you have the same paper, but I'm just going to read my rationale for the trip because I would like students to experience firsthand the culture of Spain and Italy, and I'd like them to learn about the history, see the beauty, and actually try to communicate in the language that they've been learning here at the high school. And keeping with our 21st century learning expectations, Foreign Language Department is in charge of culture and communication, and it just happens when I wrote this a couple of months ago, I didn't even realize I used both the words in there, but it does encompass all of that. So it would be for April vacation, and if you have any questions, I believe you have the same information I do. I know there was one question about the timing of the response because the tour gave us until November 13th because they were going to hold the price. I called them earlier, about a half an hour, and they will extend that till the 17th, so I'm in no rush for a decision. And I brought Jennifer because she was a chaperone last time, and she'll be coming again.
Okay.
She's a good chaperone.
Are there any questions? No?
How is this being funded?
It's private. Students pay themselves or their parents pay. But if you have the price list, we anticipated about 18 to 24 students. Last trip I had 21. As of right now, I have 31 signed up. They're enrolled. They won't process it until you give a decision. So the price as of right now is down to $34.10, which is actually a plus for them, and it's actually a great price for what's included.
And the sheet says that it's open to grades 9 through 12.
Yes.
Do all grades represent, or
Right now I have about 20 juniors, all girls, 5 seniors, all girls, and then freshmen and sophomore make up about 5, and there's, out of the whole group, there's 5 boys signed up right now. So they can watch over the girls or just have fun, I don't know.
Okay. Anyone? Okay. Well, generally we vote on it the next
Okay,
week,
that's
so-
no problem. I contacted the company. They're all set with
Okay,
that.
great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like a great trip.
Yeah, it looks really good. We adjusted a little bit from last time, so we're hoping this one is perfect.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the SAT and AP results presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight. We're excited to go through our SAT, AP scores, talk about some of the things we've done in the past, kind of how we're trying to address an ever-increasing and improvement in all of our standardized testings. I think one of the things right off the bat, when you look here, the first few pages talks about this past year's scores. We're really excited to see improvement in all 3 categories. I know for a while there too, we had talked about, we had kind of seen a downward trend over probably the last 6 or 7 years prior to a few years ago. We started implementing a few things at that point in time to try to address that, and I think at this point feeling pretty confident that the last couple of years now we've seen some improvement. We hope we can continue that. A couple of things that, as we've looked at that, I think it's, as we've looked at in ELA, a lot of what we really talked about was some of the timed writing, sort of timed assessments, as opposed to we had become so wrapped up in trying to prepare our students for MCAS, which was unlimited time, that we recognized one of the things we got feedback from students and from some of the other schools that we talked to about how, how they were looking at improvement. I think that was one of the things to recognize, is really kind of working on training our students to be able to do timed assessment that they hadn't really been familiar with. Also, we've already talked about with our school improvement plan, you're looking at the vocabulary changes we've made in ELA, and really across the curriculum. Math has been doing some of the same thing as we start looking at vocabulary and the use of vocabulary. The use of practice tests, the use of a do now questions that we do in class each day. I think when you're looking at also as we prepare for the redistribution here and the re-administration of the SAT, especially in math, you're looking at getting away from the solve for X and looking more at that read, analyze, and kind of take a look at how you can problem solve. So instead of a solve for X, it's more, figure out what it is you're going to solve for and then find that solution. So I think we've really kind of emphasized that in our classrooms. Some of the SAT problems in math especially, I know they've worked on it a little bit in professional development and also through our Summer Institute. As we looked at trying to get our SAT practice problems to be more topical rather than just randomly doing a do now for today. Some of the math department teachers took a look at that and sort of grouped them into topics so that when you're doing a section in class on quadratics, then you're looking at SAT problems that relate to quadratics. So they're kind of doing that as a little more topical, and it's a little more review and kind of in step with what they're doing in class. So we were pretty pleased with that. Again, the presentation, when you go through, you can see the next few pages after the first bar graphs. You're looking at those 5-year trends, and again, we're pretty happy that you're looking at that trend to start going on back on the upward slant. When you look at our comparison by town, we do this every year. You take a look at some of these other schools that we are comparing ourselves to. We take a look at some of those schools that are doing really well, and we talk to them, and we all kind of put our heads together and figure out what everybody's doing. It's interesting, we say it, I think we're all doing pretty similar things. Timed writing assessments, the do now, those sort of practice problems in school. It's all pretty similar. I think one of probably the most consistent feedback we got from everybody was really what's happening on the outside. Those communities that are doing well really kind of emphasize that they'll say that they're not doing necessarily much in school, but it's the after school, it's the SAT prep class, whether you're using a Kaplan or some name brand, or whether you're doing it, on your own, like we do it through community schools. And I would say too, as we've tried to emphasize this, you look at the last few years. I was speaking to Michael Ann the other day. Historically, 25 or 30 students were signed up and doing that. We really weren't getting the participation we would have liked to have seen. And then the last year or so, it was 30 to 40, and then this past year, we had 70 kids that had signed up. So I think, again, when you look at the increase in those grades, that hopefully it's that culmination of all those things, and we hope that's going to continue to increase as we kind of get the community involved. And I think we say it all the time, for community schools, it's really affordable. It's a great program. It's run by teachers in the building, so it's a familiar face to a lot of our students. So is that additional support that is happening outside of the building, and again, I think that was the feedback that we got from a lot of the schools that are performing well, was really the difference. Is we can only do just so much during the school day. We've got a lot of other curriculum to try to cover, but that commitment of the community and our students to take on that additional course outside of the school was really what made a big difference. So again, we're hoping that will continue. And obviously, we're going to continue to kind of push that and try to sell that program to our students. The next couple, you see some distribution charts there. Part of it's the gender distribution. I think when you look at those top scores, it's fairly equally distributed in the top. And then you're looking at that 600 to 690, 500 to 590. There's almost a flip-flop of males and females. But again, I think when you look at those two combined, it's pretty consistent overall. So there's no real major where you're saying females are outperforming males or vice versa. So I think it would look like we're doing a pretty good job across the board as far as the gender equity goes. The next page that we look at is that score distribution for the last few years. And I think one of the things we're looking at that we're pretty excited about, when you look at the top two tiers, the numbers seem to be increasing there. And that's working out pretty well. So again, I think we're seeing the difference of kind of that 500 on up, those students that, you know, between what we're doing in the classroom and also as we look at some of our SAT prep courses on the outside, that's making a difference in a student that, you know, may have scored a 590 is now scoring a 630, and that might be that difference that's really kind of getting them where they need to be. I think obviously we're excited about the improvement. Obviously, not just for the fact that we've got better test scores, but also I think we've talked about this, the impact that SATs have on college acceptance. We get that question a lot of, you know, the types of colleges that kids are getting into and kind of how does SAT impact that. I think it's one of those things that, although there's multiple factors, you know, probably far too many to go into here, there's no doubt about it that SAT performance is one of those things that helps students out. It really sort of gives students options. I think if I can speak for Mike, you know, guidance runs a number of informational sessions that talk about the college acceptance and all the other factors that go on there. And we say it all the time. We encourage, you know, parents and families, not just from the high school, but from the entire district to attend any of those, to get all those. But I think for the purposes of tonight, obviously, you know, we look at the impact that SATs have on options and kind of if we can continue to increase those SAT scores, that gives our kids a better opportunity to get into the colleges that they're looking to get into. So we're excited and we're looking forward to that continuing. On the topic of SAT in college, I think the last few years we haven't included ACT scores. A big part of it is we're still, although it's increasing, our ACT score, kids taking the ACT is still under 50% of our students. So statistically speaking, it's kind of a smaller group, and it's kind of hard to say, is it a higher performing student, lower performing student? So sometimes those numbers can be skewed. But I think when we look at that data, right now, although it's half the sample size, I think overall the performance is pretty similar to our SATs. It's not like we're seeing a remarkable, oh, our kids aren't doing well on ACT, or they're doing, you know, some students do better, some students don't do quite as well. But I think, again, as we're looking at a jump, I think, Mike, we talked about it, that it was historically around 30% of our students took it. I think we're upwards of about 40%. So obviously as those numbers go up, we'll probably start including that back into the program. I think at this point it makes sense. But Mike, you can talk about ACT a little more also.
For the second year in a row, the ACT outpaced the SAT in terms of national administration. 1.5 million high school students nationally took the SAT last year, compared to 1.9 million who took the ACT. For Linfield High School, Bob was spot on. Our number is approximately 40% of our senior class last year took the ACT. 7 years ago, that number was 12%, so we're mirroring the national shift towards more SAT testing. What has not yet truly changed, though, I think, are the demographics involved with the testing. The SAT still is predominantly an Eastern and Western test, while the ACT is primarily a Midwestern and Southern test. What has happened is the ACT has made inroads into SAT country while maintaining their historic base. They have not lost business. What's interesting is, again, SAT and College Board will be running out the new SAT in March. These changes seem to come, if you look back over the past 20 years, they always tend to cycle around some sort of loss of business. And so the ACT will be running out the new one in March. But still, the SAT remains for the Linfield High School student their primary as well as their initial test in the whole college standardized testing world. The ACT is now comfortably ensconced as a secondary test, which is typically taken by a Linfield High School student after they have had their first go at the SAT. The ACT for many of our kids is the option they pursue after they've had the opportunity to take the SAT, and in many cases, after they have seen their SAT score. It is, again, this mirrors the Northeast. The reason why I think the ACT is the second option for Linfield kids is because it's viewed as the second option for Northeast corridor kids because of the dominance of the SAT. What we see traditionally, the 40% are made up primarily of students who have found the SAT to be challenging. And so they look at the ACT as a different option for them. And nationally, we've reached the point now where it's like apples and apples to colleges. They really do not prefer one or the other. In fact, the SAT has mirrored the ACT in a number of ways with the changes that they will be implementing in March. The ACT has been essay optional now for 6 years. The SAT will go essay optional in March. The SAT is rewording a lot of their questions very similarly to the way the ACT has worded them.
Jump in AP, or you want to stop for questions, or we'll jump into AP and then ask questions at the end?
Everyone? Okay, AP. This past May saw Linfield High School smash their previous record for most AP tests administered by seeing the largest number of our juniors and seniors take at least one AP test. More than 50% of the class of 2015, our recently graduated seniors, took at least one AP test. Our numbers skyrocketed last year, as did the number of tests. When I started at Linfield 26 years ago, I think it was, we had 2 AP classes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe last year we administered 11 AP tests. Our AP participation, interesting enough, mirrors the national debate that is ongoing at AP Central and among AP providers. There are those who believe that AP placement should remain a meritocracy based on the student's previous academic success somewhere. For example, at Linfield High School, AP Calculus would be an example of that. Students get into AP Calculus because they have done very, very well in pre-calculus. Yet nationally, there is a growing number of supporters who feel that AP placement should in fact be a democracy and not be limited to those students who have had academic success, because the AP experience is seen as being a very valuable one. At Linfield High School, our AP psychology class is an example of a democracy. Dr. Boulay has no any kind of gatekeeping issues. If you want to take it, you can take it. That's why I believe last year we tested nearly 70 students in AP Calculus. So we are providing, I think, both opportunities to our,
Calculus, AP Psychology.
I'm sorry, AP Psychology, pardon me. Nearly 70 students in our AP Psychology class. We are providing both options to our kids, and they are responding very well. Add to this also the issue of, we do have a number of students, it's still a small number, who are taking AP classes online that we do not offer. And for those students, we will also provide the AP test. I think last year we had, was it World History? We had a student who did that. We had a computer science AP that the student took an online course. So participation is it's never been higher. I think the students and the teachers should be commended for this.
I think Mike mentioned it too, and you look at the, obviously last year we added AP language, the AP language and comp, which I think as a first year when you look at the summary there, the numbers were outstanding. I think there was the average score was 3.85 as a first-year run. That was pretty impressive. So I think, we're excited to offer that. Mike mentioned there's always somebody that might be taking something online. The major AP courses are all being offered here. It's sort of like we've run out of options there. There's a few AP European history. That tends to not be a particularly popular one. As we try to expand our AP offerings, between biology, calc, physics, English language, English lit, we really hit all the major ones. So at this point, we've talked a number of times about possibly trying to add in, whether it's AP art, AP computer science, to actually run the course, as opposed to, we've always had a couple of kids that were taking our computer science class, and we tried to do our best to prepare them for the test, and we've had varying degrees of success there. I've spoken to Julie Scroy, our new foreign language teacher, department head, and she's looking into the possibility of having people prepared that we might be able to offer some AP language class in the building, as opposed to in the past we've done it online. But it would be one of those, like a Spanish 5 honors and AP taught together, or however we've tried to do it in the past, to try to accommodate a few kids somewhere along the line. So we're always looking to expand it, but I think we're almost running out of room at this point as far as how many AP exams we can give. But we've been pretty happy with the results. A couple things. AP kind of designates kids that perform well. There's AP Scholar with honor, AP Scholar with distinction, and a National Scholar. And I'll kind of throw some of those numbers at you. The AP Scholar, we had 30 students that qualified as an AP Scholar, and that's where you're scoring 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. So again, these are students that are taking multiple AP courses and exams, and they're scoring 3 or higher on those. We had 6 students that were scholars with honor, and that's an average of 3.25 on all of your exams, and then you've got a 3 or higher on 4 or more exams. So again, you're talking about students that are taking 4 or more exams, scoring 3 or better, and then their average is at least 3.25. We have 18 scholars with distinction. So much like the scholar with honors, there's an average. You have to score it on average of 3.5 on all of your exams. And then you're looking at scoring a 3 or higher on 5 or more exams. A lot of this or higher and more than, but the way they kind of qualify it. So these are students that are taking 5 or more AP exams, scoring 3 or higher on all of them, and then have an average of at least 3.5. And then national scholars, historically in the past, we'll have one student. It's usually, sometimes we haven't had any. This past year we had 3 national scholars, and that's an average of 4 on all of their exams, and then scoring a 4 or higher on 8 or more exams. So these kids took 8 AP exams over the course of their junior and senior year and scored 4 or higher on all of them, and their average score was 4 or better, and a lot of them actually, the majority of them were scoring 5s on those. They did a dynamite job. So again, it's kudos to our students and their hard work, and our teachers for what they're doing with their AP scores. And that kind of concludes our part of the presentation. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
I have a bunch, Bob. I'll
Sure.
get the SAT first. Percentage of participation, it was 94 this year. Historically, we've always been proud of getting like 100% participation, regardless of what the student anticipated with their
We're always right there in that mid-90s when we look at our participation. There's always, and again, just to put some numbers to that, it's a great question, Tim. 94%, whenever it is, we're talking about 5 to 7 kids who don't take it is really probably the better way to look at it. When you look at a class of 150 students that graduated, sometimes the percentages can mull over the fact that, we've got that handful of students that know they're going school to work, or they know that they're going to community college, or they know they're going to the military, and they chose not to take it. I think Mike had said it. We try to encourage all of our students to take it. So there's always a few kids that probably don't really need to take it, but they want to see where they're at, and it's a great indication for us to see, are we doing a good job? Are we making sure these kids are where they need to be?
I would also, Tim, add one other issue. There is a growing national trend towards more universities to go test optional. And we're seeing it, frankly, now grow to the more selective schools. So there may very well be it, but I think the number of those 7, you might have 1, maybe 2 of our students who opt not to take a standardized test because they don't have to.
The second one, Bob, and I know the superintendent talked to you about this, we probably gotta go back and take a look at our comparables, our peers.
Sure.
Because they probably, you say 20 years, I trust you. So.
Yeah, Tim, I was going to say, as long as I've been here, it's been that same group,
Yeah.
and and I know we talked. I think Dorothy brought it up a few years ago. We talked about DART. The DESE has that, and they give you a cohort group. But I think one of the things is we've looked at that. It's King Philip. It's Mendon. It's schools that we don't really know anything about their community. So I think historically, when you look at, we've taken that sampling of Cape Ann League schools and communities that were, Wakefield is right next door, although it's not in the same league, from us as far as what we're playing. It's not the Cape Ann League, but we have a pretty good idea of what that demographic, what it looks like at Wakefield. But it's a great point that as we look at that, certainly we can take a look, and because there are some schools that we already compare ourselves to that the DART has, but I think it's also that as we look at kind of what are some comparable communities, and we can certainly work on if you've got places you're interested in, seeing what they do. It's just a matter, for us, it's unlike MCAS where those are posted. SAT doesn't send out a list of you're relying on these schools to get in touch with us. So it's, for us a lot of times too, it's also, these are schools we have a good relationship with, and we're making that phone call and say, hey, can you share us your numbers? And then, when I get this report put together, I share it with them, and they can use it when they're doing their reports. So,
Okay.
but we can certainly take a look at that.
And then, Mike, I want to circle back to the ACT because I remember my previous time you had talked about the ACT and that trend. And it sounds like that trend is still pretty consistent of it growing. But you also had indicated in the past that it had more practical content testing as opposed to the SAT, which appears maybe to be trending that way with the adjustment in the test. If it's a data point, we ought to have the scores, and even if you don't, I know you don't probably have them on hand tonight, but I'd like to get them into our packet because it is another data point we can take a look at.
Right.
Just so we can see where we fall on
And,
that.
and that was, Tim, that's what we were saying, I know in the past, we've kind of stayed away from it because, again, because the sample size isn't that big, sometimes the data can be misleading. But as we look at it, it's pretty consistent with what we're doing, and I think there's some of those things they just listed a different way of percentage of college-ready students, and I want to say, again, we're right on, or if not a little better than national averages there of, I think and it varies because it also breaks it down into English, math, science. It's a little more specific to it, but it's a great point, and we'll certainly, that's what, I know you raised the question, and we've been talking about it a little bit, is that we're getting to the point where the numbers are increasing enough that we probably ought to include those, so we'll definitely get those in. And I think at some point in time, it might be even worth our while to sit down and kind of talk about how do you kind of decipher what they're trying to say there, because some of the way they break it down much more, they kind of drill it down much more than SAT does. So
Right.
it might
Right.
take some time for us to kind of go through that and see what they
I mean, if we could just get the scores,
Yeah.
Just Googling online while Mike was doing his presentation, there is a chart that
Yeah.
kind of correlates ACT performance to SAT performance,
Right.
and if that's consistent, great. If not, then again, it's another data point
Sure.
that is available to us. We ought to take
Oh, yeah.
advantage of it.
Certainly.
We have
especially
a
with those
Kath-
numbers.
Kathy Moody, Scott McKenzie, and I have the conversion chart in our office so that we can, when a youngster brings in their ACT score, we can compare it immediately to their SAT score. But for research purposes, I think more importantly, over the past couple of years, we've made it a point to sit down with the students who have taken both the SAT and the ACT and ask them their opinions of the test so that we can share their insights with the following year. And what we're hearing over and over, those students who are more comfortable having taken both are more comfortable with the ACT because of the wording of the question. They felt that the questions were worded in a way that they could relate to in a better fashion. And we've kind of gotten more depth from those answers. So now, when we sit down with juniors, we have a growing list of narratives that we can bring to the table to allow our kids. It's all about helping them make informed choices.
All right, I just wanted to basically make a comment on the AP summary. You know, I think that we had voiced in the past what you're saying. The national trend is to offer AP classes to more students, and you can see, you know, that the classes have grown and the participation has grown. And as far as the average scores are concerned, you know, although there's, you know, dips in some of them, but there's no big dramatic change in the scores as well, which I think is a really great statistic that, you know, the classes are getting bigger, but the scores are remaining, you know, high, and the kids are still testing well, even though the classes are getting bigger. So I just wanted to, you know, congratulate you guys on that, and thank you for compiling all the information for us. Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'll go to my AP questions now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Bob, the online courses that the students take, are they taking those within our building on our school budget? Are they going outside?
No, any online right now, because so we're a member of the VHS consortium, so that those are, anything at this point has been through our VHS here, you know, technically here in the building, but you know, whether they're working at home on it, but it's through they're registering through the high school, and that's part of, you know, the VHS
Yep.
consortium that we belong to. So we have an X number of seats, I think 5 seats that we have that we budget each year, and then if there's additional, we can add to that. But
And then you also talked about expanding the AP offering, and specifically you touched upon foreign language.
right.
Any expansion of AP offerings, are you going to be able to do that within your current budget, or do you foresee adding staff to accomplish?
I think at this point, what we're probably looking to do is, again, depending on where the numbers are, Tim, you know, it's one of those things, if we start talking about this and I have kids coming out of the woodwork wanting to take it, then obviously there might be required additional staffing. But I think right now we're pretty comfortable with kind of that just general surveying of classes and seeing who might be interested in taking it to that next level. A big part of it, and we've said it, we'd probably differentiate. So it'd be that 5 honors class would be honors and AP together, and you'd basically be teaching an AP class to the honors kids too, and you just differentiate some of the assessments and some of the things that were going on. So you just kind of boost that up in what was going, and obviously we'd see where it's going from there. And then if it continues to build, then it might be something we'd have to look at. But I think it's, you know, for the most part, it's just one of those, more than likely the kids are going to go in, if we're going to fill a full class of AP, it's probably going to come from the honors class. So like a lot of our other classes, we'll have a CP and an AP. There is no honors class in between. You know, some of our, like physics, we're able to do a CP, an honors, and an AP. But like English, we don't have a senior honors English. It really just became AP and then the CP. So depending on what happens, you know, I think we feel pretty confident that we can just absorb it with our current staffing. Yeah.
One final one. I know you guys touched upon psychology being capturing more of a global
Sure.
student. Do you foresee something like computer science doing the same thing?
Oh, without a doubt. I think it's, you know, there's that difference between, we say it, you can do an AP physics or an AP calc, you know, it's that Liam Neeson. You need a particular set of skills to get in there and kind of be successful with it. Where that AP psych, you can rely on a lot of different things to do well in that. And I think that's the same thing. If you've got an interest in computer science, you know, we don't really have that now as far as an honors level kid. Typically somebody that's interested in computer science, they're good at it, and it's such a want for them that we don't really see it to be a problem that if we run that AP class. And I think it's also one of those things, to be honest with you, it's not a typical class that when you say, I need to get into this, it's going to build my resume, it's going to help me get into college. AP computer science probably isn't going to make or break a student that if they try it and don't do that well at it. I don't think there's going to be a college that's going to say, oh, you know, no thanks, you don't have the kind of intellect we need. That's a way to grow a gross generalization. But I think if you've got somebody and you're trying an AP Calc or you're trying an AP language and you do poorly in it, that might affect how you go on and what you're going to do from a college standpoint, as opposed to AP Art, AP Computer Science, some of those things that might be seen as more of the elective AP class. That's a particular, a particular spot that kids want to get into. So, if that makes sense. I know I kind of talked around that, but I don't think that should be a problem.
Have we looked back at any of the previous classes and seen what percentage of our AP students are actually getting college credit for the test?
It's been more anecdotal, Jamie. It's kind of one of those things that every place is different, and some will get, some students won't, even though they might be able to get credit, don't take because they wanted to take that course. So I guess there's a part of, I hate to say it, but there's a part of it that what they do in college is up to them. It'd probably be something we could probably take a look at and start asking or surveying students moving forward. But I think at this point it does vary. There are more and more schools that aren't giving credit for AP. They recognize that, you've challenged yourself. There's your strength of schedule that got you into our school. Now there's another part of that, the whole financial part of it. If I'm a college, I don't want to opt you out of credits. I want to be able to charge you for them. So there's a number of different things that happen there. So it's pretty inconsistent to really kind of keep track of those numbers. But I don't, Mike, if you might know better.
The national trend is pretty clear. The universities that are, by and large, still accepting AP credit are the state universities. The private, more selective schools have begun to almost diminish their willingness to accept credit. But again, if you take multiple AP courses here at Linfield High School and you score 4 and you go to UMass Amherst, you might have earned yourself a free semester at UMass Amherst. And I think that's the case at UConn, at UVM, at the University of Maryland. But there is a national movement away from that when it comes to the schools that you would think most of our AP students would be applying to.
So if they don't get credit for it, are they allowed to start in higher sections? Or do they
For a
have
lot
to-
of schools, what it might do for you is, for example, in calculus, if we teach calculus AB, students who might score 4 or better on the calculus AP test in calculus AB might be allowed to jump over that intro calculus at their school and take the next level of calculus.
Mhm.
Why they would do that, it still mystifies me, because that's really hard stuff. But another option would be, for a lot of schools that have a humanities requirement of their freshmen, a 4 or a 5 in an English might allow them to not take that freshman humanities, but they still would need to take an English class to meet their gen ed requirements at the university.
So it's certainly, I guess that the point is, if you're not getting credit for it, it still gives you kind of more
Some
options when you get there.
advantage.
There are benefits there
Right,
that go beyond just, you're getting out and taking a class somewhere.
right,
So
right.
it
Okay.
opens a few more doors, to say the least.
Gotcha. Any more? Good.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you
Great.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so next on the agenda is the discussion of the resolutions that will come before the delegates for vote at the MASC and MASS conference, which is this week.
Yes, it is.
So there are 7 resolutions, and Jamie will be our representative down there, correct? So we need to go through the resolutions and let him know, our thoughts and how we would like him to vote, or discuss once he's down there among all the delegates. So I'll basically give a summary of each resolution, and if people, have their opinion as far as how to vote, then please speak up. So resolution number 1 is regarding high school starting times, And they are asking that the MASC be authorized to petition the legislature and to support legislation which calls for the establishment of a special commission to study the appropriate starting times for students in the middle and high school. It's basically inspired by, data that says that inefficient sleep in adolescence is not a good thing. It doesn't set them up for success, and that there's a lot of debate and discussion surrounding what the appropriate starting time for high school and middle school students are. So, does anyone have thoughts on this resolution?
I think it should be studied.
Should be studied. Okay, right. Sounds like a very reasonable resolution to me.
I wasn't sure if you wanted something a little more complex.
That's perfect, Sal. Tim, any thoughts? Okay, so we, yes,
Heavily binding.
okay. So, there you go. We all agree that a study would be great. Okay, resolution number 2 is regarding poverty in children. They are asking that the Massachusetts Association of School Committee to prioritize as a matter of its public policy agenda and file for and support legislation that will support the eradication of poverty among children in Massachusetts and advocate for social and economic justice for students and their families. That will include support of a revenue stream that supports social and economic priorities for children and families, support for state programs and services that serve children at greatest social and emotional risk, which are easily accessible to students and families, advocacy for nutrition programs that eradicate hunger among children, advocacy for health care, including vision, hearing, dental, and mental health through accessible service providers, support for pre-kindergarten programs for all children, advocacy for increasing educational opportunities for children to grow both inside and out of school. Anyone have any thoughts on this one? Are we all in support of the MASC prioritizing these matters? Okay, we are in support of that. Resolution 3, tie testing scores to Chapter 70 funding. They want MASC to support legislation to ensure that individual student MCAS and or PARC assessment data in a given academic year is ascribed to the school and district that claims Massachusetts Chapter 70 funding based on the student's October 1st enrollment, provided that the student is enrolled in a Massachusetts school when the tests are administered. In addition, MASC requests that the state auditor to examine academic outcomes for students who move out of charter schools after October 1st. Any thoughts, objections to this one?
So with regard to Chapter 70 funding, are we talking about simply numbers of enrollment? I guess I need a little more explanation as to, on one hand, they're talking about test scores, on the other hand, they're talking about enrollment. Because Chapter 70 funding is based on enrollment, is it not?
That's correct.
So I just need, I guess I need more of an explanation as to how it's tied into the funding. Am I not reading something? Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Mm-hmm.
Delegate.
Does the delegate have the answer?
Does the delegate have the answer?
No, but the delegate can ask the question.
Delegate can
Yes.
answer.
Okay.
That is right.
Yes, this is where I was
Right.
going to ask Dorothy
Dorothy
for
for a little bit of
her
help.
feedback.
Mhm.
The results, I can tell you that the information says, whereas the results of the standardized tests taken by transferring students will more accurately reflect the strengths and weaknesses of the sending school, and the districts will be a far less useful analytic tool for the receiving school and district. So I think maybe it just provides consistency, that the numbers for Chapter 70 are also the numbers for the
Certainly, the
standardized
enrollment
testing
and the
results.
How is it
participation rate, perhaps?
done? Do we know how it's done now?
From what it sounds, from this, it sounds like currently the standardized testing is based on where the student is when they take the test. Whereas this is saying that the results of the standardized test for that student should be assigned to the school system where he was October 1st.
Yes, that's
Right.
right.
So if he moves after October 1st and takes the test in another town, his test results
Yeah.
are reflected in the original town's.
Are they
I'm
is that what they're asking for?
That's what
Because
they're
that's not what
asking.
it is now.
That's what they're asking
Right,
for.
that is not what it is now.
I'm taking
If
this
you
too
move in-
literally in terms of tying test scores to funding.
I
I'm
think you
taking it too
probably-
literally
Right.
in
Right.
terms of
So I think
performance.
it's just the consistency
Right,
in
it's-
statistics.
Calculating the numbers and all. Right, I understand it, yes, I do. I know what that means.
Okay.
Thank you.
So does anyone have any objection to that idea? Think that there should be an alternative plan?
We just have to clarify.
Okay, resolution 4, support of an equitable and sustainable placement program for students covered under the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Act. They are asking that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees file for and support legislation that will design, implement, and fund a program that will provide a more sustainable and equitable placement program for the state's homeless and McKinney-Vento students. A placement program needs to include consideration of the social, emotional, and behavioral circumstances of the student, timing of the placement in relation to budgetary considerations, proximity of the student's previously established support system, and the availability of resources the receiving district has to accommodate the student's needs. I think at this point, from my understanding, is that the student could potentially be placed in an environment where their supports that they're accustomed to are not in place. There's not a lot of history. Where they are placed may not know the history of the student, so they're trying again to provide some supports and put some things in place that set the student up for success. Any objections to that? Sounds silly when I word it that
It
way.
does
I
sound a little
apologize.
silly.
Okay, hearing no objections. Jamie, you taking tedious notes over there? Okay. Resolution 5, tax reform ballot question. They are asking that the MASC explore ways to promote social and economic equity through a ballot initiative whose purpose may include a state constitutional amendment, tax reform, protection of the state's neediest residents of all ages, and seeks additional revenue only from tax reform affecting the state's wealthiest residents. Further, that the goal of such a ballot referendum would be to secure a stronger financial base to underwrite needed improvements in the infrastructure of the Commonwealth, as well as the educational, social, and economic well-being of its residents. Any thoughts or objections to this resolution?
Who would hear this presented?
Yes.
But,
It's a very interesting discussion. Sal?
I'm just saying that may be the most politically charged,
Mhm.
just as it's stated.
Right. Resolution number 6, membership of a school committee member on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. This is basically just adding someone to the list of members. They asked that the MASC submit to the general court proposed legislation that the Mass General Law, Chapter 15, Section 1E be revised to include one representative from a school committee from a list of 3 nominees provided by the MASC, along with all the other people that are already on the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. Any objections to that resolution? Okay, and the final one, Resolution 7, relative to the teaching strategies gold assessments for the kindergarten students. This is asking MASC to urge the Department of Early Education and Care and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to end the mandate that districts implement TS Gold or any other externally developed kindergarten assessment. And they have all sorts of reasons as to why that is.
Jane, I was wondering if you could just
Turn your mic on so people can hear you.
Can you give a little more information about TS Gold? It was, do you know anything about
On which one?
TS Gold, the TS Gold?
I honestly don't, Jamie. I honestly don't. I wish that I could, but I really do not. What
This is
question
from
did
the
you have
Arlington School
specifically?
Committee.
Well, what it is, I mean,
Well, I know that it's a
it's a
an
teacher
assessment,
program.
yeah,
It's an
it's an assessment program for
program.
all kindergarten students. So it's
It's an independent assessment program for students. So I think the resolution says that it's not, right, they call it an outside testing source. And
Yes,
and they-
externally developed.
And
kindergarten
Arlington wants
assessment.
to eliminate that as a testing component, from what I can pull up here. It's an independent corporation that does it.
I know there was conversation about it with our kindergarten team at one point, and nobody was very excited about adding more assessments to
Right.
kindergarten at all.
Right, they mention here that it interrupts the time from teaching. They don't think that what the information they're receiving back is valuable enough for the interruption.
One of our neighboring communities does it, and I don't remember exactly which one it is, but the feedback from them was that it's just too much, enough is enough with kindergarten. Let's just let them do their thing and do the assessments that we do with them.
So this reads like it's already,
Like
it's like it's required.
It is not required.
Well, are they saying, I'm sorry, so where it says, end the mandate
in the
that districts implement TS Gold or any other externally developed kindergarten assessment. So
Well,
it
they-
sounds as though
You're required to do it, but that's all.
that there may be some assessment that is mandated,
Well,
It just doesn't have to be TS Gold.
but it doesn't have to be TS Gold. Well, actually, they're saying, or any other externally developed. So that's obviously supporting a perspective that the best folks to conduct assessments are the teachers.
Internal
and-
people, the
exactly,
teachers,
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Our
that's how I'm
curriculum
reading it.
directors, that sort of thing.
Exactly, right. Thank you.
Schools kind of have their own decision making. They can do their
Well,
own thing.
right,
It's kindergarten.
it's kindergarten, let's keep it kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay, any objections to that resolution? Okay, Jamie, do you feel good about how we all?
I will report back on
Yes, yes, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Okay, just a few things tonight. I think it was, was it our last school committee meeting that we had, a parent come before the committee and talk about, her, opinion on paying for games. And so, that gave us cause to pause and cause to go and do a further investigation. I had long conversations with Tom Gary, our finance director, as well as we had a very, very long conversation at administrative leadership team meeting. And the end result was that we decided that for the money that we were bringing in for games such as field hockey, that it just was not worth doing. It was not worth taxing the parents. We were talking about the fact that very often to these games we have maybe two adults, a mother or father, maybe a grandmother or grandfather, and maybe two other kids in the family. That's a lot of money to be walking through the door of a high school sport to see your child. So we made the executive decision that we were going to stop that practice and go back to what we have always done, which is charge for the typical games that we charge for and do not charge for such games as field hockey under the lights. And so as a follow-up with Mrs. DePietro, I actually invited her in and had a very good, long conversation with her about this. So I just wanted to update the committee on that. Any questions on that?
No, good decision, thank you.
Okay. And so I did want to talk about, speaking of what you were just speaking to, I am going down to the conference tomorrow, and I am really excited about some of the things that I'm going to be participating in. I think it really supports the strategy that we have put in place. There's one in particular conference breakout session that I'm looking forward to about empowering teacher leaders. And so that is exactly in direct correlation to our educator growth and building leadership capacity for my district strategy. So I'm excited about that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was that I'm not the only one going down. We all know that Dorothy is down there. She is presenting, if I said 5 or 6 times over the course of 3 days, I'm probably not giving her enough credit. She's presenting a lot over the course of actually 4 days for her. And we also have Tom Gary, who is our finance director. He will be going down tomorrow, and he is doing a presentation on school municipal agreements. And so he's doing that with some other people from across the Commonwealth, but I thought it would be great to tell you that he'll be down there. And as last year, we also have Jen Judkins, who is going down, with Sarah Perkins, who is our new tech integration specialist, and Janet Alpert from our media center here is also going down. The three of them are presenting, I believe, on Saturday morning. So Linfield is being well represented down at this conference. And the last thing that I just want to talk about is just reiterating about our central office space down at 525 Salem Street. It has just been such a great place to witness and to see teaching and learning, and great discussions, rich discussions about what's going on in our classrooms, from assessment meetings to Linfield Curriculum Council meetings. There is hardly a day that common room is not being booked by somebody. So very often there will be meetings in the individual offices, there'll be a group of people in the common room, and our conference room also will be in use. So the space is being put to great use, and it really has become a hub for teaching and learning in the district. So I just want to report out on that as well.
That's great. Every time I've been there, the room's been full.
It's filled.
Been nice,
Yeah, it's
nice
great.
to see.
It's great.
Excellent. Okay, our next item is public participation. Seeing and hearing none, there are no matters for action. So, is there a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, excellent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.